What's up, guys? So I've been getting a few requests to take a look at the S10 series in 2024. I always like coming back to this series every year just to, just kind of reminisce and look at these smartphones and how well they're doing in 2024. I do have individual videos on these phones here, but it's a very interesting time, and I always get questions about, should I get a S10 phone? It really depends on where you live at. I think if you live, in the United States, I think if you really need SD card support, you get a Galaxy Note or an S20 Ultra or something like that. And also, the S22 series is extremely cheap as well too here. So, it doesn't have SD card support, but you can buy a higher configuration. But if you just really need SD card support, yeah, try to go with the Note series. But I understand why a lot of people like these phones, and especially overseas, these are very popular as well too. For my overseas audience, and I can definitely understand why they're cheap, and then also the performance on these phones are still extremely good. I mean, really good. I was just messing around with the S10e, and I'll show you guys. Still able to play Genshin really well. What a lot of people like about the S10 series is the headphone jack. A lot of people love having the headphone jack on these phones here, and I definitely understand why. But this was a really cool time where you had the headphone jack and SD card support. And then what's interesting is that they slowly started to take these things out with the S20 series, and then with the S21 series it's completely gone. So very interesting. I think one of the most interesting phones with the S10 series is actually the S10e. It's one of my favorite phones in this series here, strictly because of it's just extremely comfortable to hold, and then also I really love the fingerprint scanner being on the side of this phone, and then also it's very powerful. It still has all of the main features that you would like in a flagship phone, like the wireless charging, Samsung desktop support. They didn't really take anything out of this phone, so that's one thing that I really liked about this phone when it came out. Now, the unfortunate thing about the S10e is that it didn't sell well, and most small flagship phones don't really sell well. A lot of people prefer bigger phones, so that's why you see over time these phones have gotten really big. So you can see the S10 Plus. This is 6.4 inches, and it's considered a plus size phone. Now, phones these days are actually like 6.8 to 6.9 inches. So yeah, so it's kind of interesting how big phones have gotten, and people really don't like small phones. And not only that, the battery life wasn't that great on the S10e, but how we know people don't really want small phones, because Apple with the iPhone 13 mini, it actually had good battery life. The Asus Zenfone line had good battery life. Those phones just don't really sell that well, and people are not just really interested in them. But I've always really liked the idea of a compact, powerful flagship. What's interesting about these phones is that Samsung, they never did the notch thing. They always went with the punch hole type of display. At that time, a lot of people were doing the notch like Apple, and they did the display punch hole, and I thought that was a really good idea at the time, because now we fast forward to 2024, these displays still look fairly modern. Yeah, the punch holes are a little bit bigger than modern ones, but these displays still look really good, and the design on these phones I think still look really great. So that's why I said these phones really are standing the test of time. I think they're a little bit ahead of their time at the at the moment of release. But yeah, the displays are awesome on these phones. It's classic Samsung displays here. The only thing you could really say is outdated about these displays is that there's no 120 hertz or anything like that, no high refresh rate. Besides that, these displays still look amazing here in 2024. Also, you could also say the max brightness is not that great in direct sunlight. But besides that, I really love the displays on here. They're really nice and colorful and vibrant. Now, I think the most impressive thing about these older S10 series devices is that if you have the Snapdragon model, I'm not exactly sure about the Exynos model, but these phones do a fantastic job when it comes to gaming. Even a very demanding game like Genshin Impact here, we're able to still play, and it still runs fine. I think the biggest thing with this phone is that it does get a little bit warm, but I haven't actually had any crashes. It actually plays PUBG extremely well. We got the PUBG on the S10e, still playing at HDR Extreme. So that's why I said these devices, they're extremely cheap. Like a S10e you can find for like $130 or something like that. I think I've seen them for like $100 too. Just fantastic devices when it comes to gaming. So the Snapdragon 855 has really stood up, you know, the test of time here. As far as performance, these phones really don't lag or they don't feel slow at all, even compared to, you know, an S24 Ultra. So basically, I think this was like a peak chipset, honestly, all these years later, and these phones are still performing this great. They'll still be performing really good next year as well too. So I've always thought that was really interesting about this chipset. I really like the Snapdragon 855. On the S10e, like I was saying, it does heat up a little bit more, but on the bigger versions, it's not as bad. Now, one thing about these older Samsung phones is that battery life is not that great. Even on the bigger models like the S10 and S10 Plus, it's just still kind of alright. Maybe around like 5 hours, 30 minutes of screen on time. But one of my favorite phones from the S10 series is the S10 5G. This is a phone that Samsung released, and they took out the SD card support, but they added a much bigger display here. And you know, it's got 5G, of course. But what I liked about this phone is that, one, the speakers are absolutely insane on this thing. I'll let you guys hear the speakers. Like, these speakers are loud, and you could really hear it on the you could really hear the speakers on the desk there. You can really feel the bass on this one. So this one is always a phone that I really like, and then the battery life is extremely good on here as well too. You know, it's got a bigger battery, so that's one thing that I really liked about this model. Now, as far as cameras go, these phones, all of these phones still take really good shots, but the thing is that the image quality can get a little bit soft. Like, I don't know if the camera is picking this up, but like a shot like this indoors, you can see it's very soft compared to, you know, the newer phones here. Now, if I took a photo, you know, outdoors, you can see you get a good amount of detail. It looks really, really nice if it's sunny outside. I mean, these take beautiful shots if it's sunny outside. All of these phones do. But yeah, low light photography, the selfie cam, I think has aged, and you can definitely tell, you know, as well. So low light photography on the S10 series not that great, but I think it's still impressive how good the cameras are on the S10 series in general. Video is okay too. You know, it's not terrible. Like I said, you need a lot of light for it to look really good. Low light, not gonna look that great. So, you know, the question is, should you buy a S10 series phone in 2024? Like I said, it really depends up to you. Like I said, there are better options from Samsung, you know, in the older flagship marketplace. But like I said, if you live overseas and you were kind of curious about these phones are very, very good. I mean, I absolutely love that they have the compact, and then you got the one kind of in between with the S10, and then the Plus. I would say if you really want like a big phone out of this series, the S10 5G kind of makes more sense, because it's actually a, you know, a real big phone. You can see how close the S10 Plus and the S10 are in terms of size. I think it's a 6.1 inch, it's a 6.4 inch, but they feel like almost the same size pretty much. They don't really feel that much different. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think. Would you guys buy a S10 series phone still in 2024? Are you using an S10 series phone? Let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.